All right, so we shall go to the right.
Okay.
Now, this is probably one of the newer parts of it. Excuse me. I mean, like it's made for ADHD, you know?
Wow. Oh my gosh. There's so much to chew on.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot. Like you could spend most of your time just in this one space.
Yes. I like the small ones at the bottom. I like how they have a little combo in the corner over here.
Yeah, they do. They're having a little combo in the corner.
It almost looks like he's holding up a phone.
All right, so if you have to pick one, we get to pick one and take it home with us. Which one is it?
I know immediately. This one.
I was just thinking the same thing.
My favorite art has that Rembrandt chiaroscuro, that light and darkness. That's why I like that one.
Yeah, I just like it because it's got fire in it.
Well, yes, I like that one the most. And you know I love the cows.
Yeah, but we can only take one.
Gotta have cows.
All right, I'll get the cows.
I'll take the fire, you get the cows.
You're listening to Binder. I'm your host, Ray McManus.
Hey y'all, producer Drew here. You know, I'm feeling a little funny because I am actually sitting in Ray's chair, and funnily enough, sitting across from me right now on a bench is Ray himself. Hey, Ray.
Hey, Drew.
And you're probably wondering why you're sitting in Time Out over there, but it's because I wanted you to sit next to our other very special guest. Today on the podcast, we have not only Ray, but his wonderful and very insightful wife, Lindsay Green McManus. Lindsay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, hence Ray's time out, because I'm here, right?
That's right. You know, he's in trouble, especially after what we just heard in the gallery. So we're going to...
That's every day.
You have to learn to block it out.
And as you can tell, you're already getting a little bit of the dynamic you're going to hear in this interview between the two of them. And this is why I wanted to bring you all here. You know, Ray, we always talk about the museum experience, right?
Right.
What you can do when you come here, and speaking directly to whoever's listening at home. But that's a really singular experience. And that's not honestly how most people experience a museum.
It's true.
And the reason I asked y'all to come here together today is because I feel like this is really typical of how most people would actually experience a museum, with me walking around behind them with microphones while they talk to each other. No, but like, honestly, I think that is a dynamic that we haven't really explored a lot on the show, which is just that dynamic of when you're looking at art with other people.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to start things off today. First of all, just to get to know Lindsay a little better. Lindsay, you kind of are a unicorn for this show because we've spoken about you quite a bit.
Oh, no.
But our audiences have never actually heard you. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit about your background with arts?
Oh, okay. I'm a teacher. I teach high school English. I've taught college English. I've been married to Ray a very long time. One of the things I studied in college was art history. And so I've always come at an appreciation and a consumption of art from that angle. And meeting Ray and watching the work he does with the art, the responses to the art, I really liked because it's an extension, I think, of the art, what he does to it. So I like that. And it makes my small, simple life very fun.
I feel like you're really underselling yourself right now, Lindsay. I mean, you were a performer yourself for quite a while. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I performed with the Power Company, led by Queen Martha Brim. And we were invited to perform here years ago at the Columbia Museum of Art, and I was one of the performers positioned on the roof outside of one of the windows and had to silhouette myself up against this roofing material, rough on the bare feet. But just another way to contribute to the experience of the art museum. And then we had a separate performance here where we performed in the galleries as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we were stationed in different galleries. And as you experience the art, you would experience whatever we were doing in there too. Yeah, I've always had something to do with the museum, and you have too.
Yeah. Yeah. We've done a lot in this museum.
We have.
Legally, we've done a lot in this museum.
Just the art, the book releases, the celebrations, the community events.
Yeah. Kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Very.
Yeah. So have you all gone to, I mean, I assume, you've been together for quite a long time now. I won't say how long.
100 years.
For a century now. And have you all gone to museums together before?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone into them before, but it's a different experience going into an art museum with Lindsay. I mean, because don't get me wrong, it's a great experience because I learn a lot, and she knows a lot about different things, which is helpful for me. Gives me some context.
What 4 saints do we have? Nicholas, John the Baptist, John Jerome. You remind me of John the Baptist.
I do?
Yes.
Because I'd run around smearing honey and bees all over me?
He was a prophet of the wilderness.
Yeah. Prophet of the
I'm trying to help you.
I like it. But I move kind of fast, I'm one that would go hit the museum. I could walk it 2 or 3 times, and Lindsay's approach is different.
I could still be on one painting in the time that you get through the gallery twice.
Yes, but we'll go to museums like the State Museum or the museum in Charleston or something like that.
We try to go wherever we go. I was so proud many, many years ago when you had to travel to Chicago, and on your own, you called me and you said, I had to get to the art museum there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I did. I mean, well, how many times are you going to get a chance in your lifetime to go to the AI? I mean, that was cool. Because I made it no secret to our listeners, my approach to art is a little different, maybe a little unorthodox, and maybe a little more layman than perhaps people are more used to. And Lindsay doesn't come into it highbrow, but she takes time and explains things to me in a way that makes sense. And so it's something I enjoy doing with her.
Art is layman, though.
Exactly. But unfortunately, I think the Academy grabbed it. We've seen the same thing with poetry, right? I mean, poetry also is layman. Mm-hmm. And yet the Academy gets it. And suddenly, you have to speak 5 languages in order to understand poetry. There is that aspect about art and art appreciation that for a guy like me, I want to rebel against. And the fact that Lindsay just kind of has that kind of patience with me in general, it makes it fun.
Well, yeah, and I loved watching that dynamic in the galleries just now because I could see the differences in y'all's approach, like coming to the forefront just in your conversation, right?
That's us everywhere.
Yeah. It's like
he usually misplaces me at some point.
Well, it's like one of you would point something out and your approach to how you would answer that question couldn't have been more different. Like Ray's just going to say whatever comes to the top of his mind. Lindsay's first instinct is to read the label and see if the answer is there.
There's dirt in there. There's all kinds of stuff.
Soil. Oil acrylic.
Or soil. That's the fancier term for dirt. Which is, that is everything. That is us going to
life.
Going to the grocery store, to cooking in the kitchen, to, just parenting.
Yes.
So when I'm not following you around and you're in a museum together, I think you kind of hinted at it already, but y'all kind of split up and do your own thing, kind of come back together, or what's the usual dynamic like?
We stay together, but it's like we want to not stay together, but we're compelled to stay together.
It's
a series of us wrangling each other in.
Yeah, she's walking around with ADHD over here, and she's wrangling me. I'm constantly wanting to see what's coming next. So, I'm a lot of moving forward and coming back. But we don't like to get too far apart because I really do learn a lot. And sometimes, depending on what we're looking at, it can be a rather emotional experience for Lindsay. So, I want to be there just in case she needs me. And I'm thinking of when we went and when Rodin was here, and we had, and we've had things in this museum that, that she's seen in art books and textbooks, and then gets to see it, right there on the spot. And that's a neat experience to see that reaction.
Sculpture can bring me to tears.
Yeah, I know it does.
What is it about sculpture specifically, Lindsay? Because I noticed that as well when we were looking at that relief sculpture in the third gallery.
I think because art is something that's a very private endeavor and expression, but it's meant for very public consumption and reception. And when it's 3D that way, it's even more of a risk. So I appreciate the vulnerability and I appreciate the skill.
Yeah.
It's the movement of the stone. It's, the veins you can see in David's hands. It's the muscle, it's everything. It's just the movement of stone is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Obviously, like what someone's going to be drawn to is going to be so heavily dependent on taste and just like your personal interests. But, like when you're going to the galleries with someone else, there's going to be certain things that they want to spend a little bit more time with and certain things you want to spend a little more time with. And you're going to have conversation, right? Do you ever feel like that conversation between y'all kind of changes your relationship? Like, let's say it was a painting that, say, Ray didn't really speak to you,
Mm-hmm.
but there was something about it that really spoke to Lindsay. Do you think through that conversation, it like kind of changes and motivates you to look at it differently?
Yeah, to a certain degree. Now, there's some things I'm going to look at and I just be like, I don't get it.
The Pollock on loan was a great example.
Yeah.
We came and spent a few hours just in front of the Pollock, and that was the only thing we did that day. And we both came with individual approaches to that. But then after standing in front of it and talking for so long, we walked away with like new mutual understanding of it.
Yeah, I think that's, but that's how we are, in general. But there are times when I've looked at something and I didn't like it because I didn't get it. And then Lindsay would start talking to me about it or explaining to me a little bit about why, the significance of that particular period or something about that artist that maybe she knew that I didn't know that she knew that I would relate to.
Or the fact that you're not meant to like it. That's
yes,
not the objective.
And sometimes, yeah, just to hear that, like, well, that's supposed to make you uncomfortable. Yeah. Like, well, mission accomplished. But what ends up happening is I get an appreciation of it that I didn't have before. Mm. So I think it's great. I mean, honestly, to because otherwise I would stand there and have those questions to myself. And the fact that she is standing right there and I feel comfortable to ask the questions around her because she knows who I am. I mean, knows where my brain is.
That's a good point. I think people don't feel comfortable to ask questions about it, and we'll ask anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anything. I mean, and me, Drew, I'll ask anybody anything. But I trust what Lindsay's telling me, and so when she says, well, the reason why this is here, or or she'll point out to something and say, when you see somebody kind of in the background, or when you see this, it typically symbolizes something. And that helps me to get an appreciation of it. I'm not a big fan of still life. I'm not a big fan of some portraits. And it's not because I don't like them in general. It's just I don't see the significance of it. And Lindsay helps me to see that by just pointing out some things that she thinks I might be interested in. And suddenly it's like, oh, no, it makes sense. Still lifes are probably my least favorite. And
this gallery?
Still life in general are
Why is
my
that?
least favorite. I don't know. I think because growing up in the South, I mean, every old person had some big still life picture in the dining room. My grandparents did. My grandma did.
Sounds like you don't like the memory they trigger.
That's it. I mean, but I just haven't seen a still life that makes me go, wow. This one maybe a little bit, just because it's a little different with the.
It's just busy.
With the crab in it.
It's just busy. You have to see the right still life, one that moves.
That's just it. I haven't seen the right one yet.
Lindsay, do you think I would venture to guess you've gone to an art museum by yourself before?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the dynamic's different when you're going with someone? Do you change your approach? Like what changes?
When I'm by myself, which is rare, and it's been many years since I went to one alone, I can do my thing. I can obsess over one piece, go back to it, do my angular crawl all around it, come back to it 4 more times, obsess over a detail 2 millimeters high. I just let myself jump in the deep end completely when I'm by myself and just consume the whole time, just pig out. But when I'm with someone, it's like a meaning-making experience together. So I learn different things that way. But yeah, when I'm let out and about, I'm going to go whole hog. Yeah, I'd still be in there in that first gallery.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, we'd have to go back in there and get her.
That was going to be my next question. Is there, can you think of a piece that you would have spent more time with if you had been there by yourself that we did not get to do today?
The pieces in the first gallery, like I said, I could spend hours on every single painting in there. It's a feast for the eyes, but honestly, it's a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
But in a good way, like overwhelming in the way that, wow, this is a gigantic stack of information. I can't wait to hack through it.
Yeah.
So, Ray, how long of a drive is it back home from here?
From here?
Yeah.
Why, what's going to happen?
35 minutes, maybe tops.
All right. Well, we're going to see how quiet of a car ride that is after we play this game. So we were talking about taste earlier, Ray, and we're going to go ahead and have you stick your tongue out for this game that I'm calling the Taste Test. Ooh, tasty. This is partially inspired by the Newlywed Game, partially inspired by this or that. But what I want you to do is I have given Lindsay a handful of this or that questions. And then we have one little bonus question here at the end. And I just want to see how well you think you know what Lindsay would say. So I'm going to give you the pairing. I want you to choose one. And I want you to tell me why you think Lindsay would choose that. And then, Lindsay, I want you to tell him if that is correct or incorrect.
Man,
this is going to be bad.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
We're ready.
We're ready.
We're ready.
Yeah, this may not make it in the actual episode.
This is gonna be the whole episode right here. All right. So first and foremost, painting or sculpture?
That's easy. Sculpture.
Why is that?
Well, she talked about it earlier. I mean, I've seen her reaction to sculpture, and I think there's a level of intimacy that takes place as a patron looking at the work that a sculptor does because of the vulnerability that it takes to put that together. And I think where it comes from with Lindsay is an outright true expression of appreciation.
Lindsay, did you choose painting or sculpture?
I chose sculpture.
The crowd goes wild.
Might be the only one I get.
Hey.
Very good.
So good.
I almost forgot my answer.
Yeah. Yeah. You did. Yeah. If you say them with that level of like compelling language, you just convince her that that's what you wrote anyway.
Right.
Yeah, right.
That's great.
You said this, didn't you?
You are correct.
All right. Question number 2. Read the label first or look at the painting first?
And in context for what? Of finding an answer to a question?
Just when you walk into the gallery.
I think she's going to look at the painting first, but she's going to, she's not going to guess at the question. She'll see if the answer is in the little placard.
Lindsay?
You are correct, my friend.
Hey!
All right.
Yes.
That's right. How long have y'all been married?
100 years.
100 years.
You learn a lot. You learn a lot in 100 years.
Look at us.
Is it 20 years?
20.
Yeah.
That's that's on its way to 100.
Yeah.
We're gonna edit it so that you just keep saying 100.
Halfway
years.
there.
Yeah.
I want math.
That was a joke.
All right, you ready for the next one, Ray?
Yeah.
Sandro Botticelli's Nativity Scene or Dale Chihuly's Chandelier?
Nativity scene.
Why is that?
I mean, well, first of all, I don't know which one that is. So
it's the Nativity Scene.
The Nativity, the only Nativity. I mean, yeah. I know that. All right. So there would be 2 ways it could approach this. Okay. So it could be either one. All right. I honestly don't even know how she answered that one. Because I think from If you're looking at it purely aesthetically, I would say the chandelier probably is the thing that stands out. And I could see that. If you were looking at it from a sense of reverence, I mean, hands down, nativity would be, because I know that iconography is really important to Lindsay. And when an artist can do amazing things with that and show that is really important. So I don't understand how she could have picked one out of those two things, to be honest with you. So
he knows the real answer.
So what did you pick, Lindsay?
I picked the chandelier.
Okay.
Why do you think?
Jesus is watching.
Why do you think I picked the chandelier?
Well, I think you picked the chandelier because honestly, it's aesthetically it's amazing. It's those pieces, but it's bold and it's beautiful, but it's so intricate at the same time.
It grabs you.
It does. I want to put it in my mouth. It's like ribbon candy. They won't let you.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, they will not let you do that.
They frown upon that.
You've really got to stop advocating for eating the art every time you come in here.
But if one day, man, somebody's going to make edible art just for Ray, and I don't think it's too much to ask.
I didn't know this about you.
Me. So weird.
We're all learning a lot about each other today.
Yeah. So I don't think I answered that. I don't think I answered that one wrong at all. But was I right? Did you have a difficult time picking one on that? Was that a quick one?
Yeah. A really hard time.
Yeah. She was nodding along as you said it.
Half a point.
Yeah. I'll give you the half a point. Yeah. We're putting you at 2.5 out of 3 so far. It's pretty good.
That's good.
It's pretty good.
That's good.
There's only 6 questions. So you're doing
6 total.
6 total.
Okay, not 6.
Yeah.
Right.
So
we're halfway there.
So far you're doing really good.
No whammies.
No whammies.
No whammies.
Big money.
All right, you ready for the next one, Ray?
Yeah.
Impressionism or abstraction?
Impressionism.
Why?
Well, first of all, it's not a knock against abstractionism, for the simple fact that I think abstraction, the abstract can take you into some really beautiful things. But the impressionist, I don't know, man. I've seen how she reacts to it when she sees it. And, I think there's something about it that I don't fully understand the gravity of it. Some of it is absolutely beautiful, and some of it is like, if it weren't that, I wouldn't see what the big deal was.
Lindsay?
I picked abstraction.
Such a great answer, too.
It's a perfect answer, and I do love impressionism. You're exactly right. I don't know, it's just a mood thing today.
Yeah, well, I could have gone there either way.
They're both so complex and so emotional. I think the abstraction has that one-upped layer of symbolism.
Sure.
That makes you, if you want to, you can dig a little further, but you don't have to.
Right.
Same with impressionism. If you want to get down and see the nitty-gritty of each and every raindrop, go ahead. Yeah. But you don't have to.
Well, see, but what's wild is that, you could be either way. But if the question was asked of you, with me, impression or abstraction, which would it be?
Abstraction.
It's just no doubt, right? So, she's a hard one to paint in a box. Whereas me, I am the box.
I wish the game was over right then, because that would have been such a great way to end it. But it's not. We have a little bit more left to go.
2 more by my math.
2 more by your math and by mine. So this or that, 1 hour to look at art alone, or 15 minutes to enjoy art with a friend.
Linz, 1 hour to look at art alone.
Why is that?
I honestly, with everything that this woman has to deal with in the course of a day, married to me, now our youngest daughter she's pretty awesome and pretty self-contained, but she is a high school teacher. Okay. Not my daughter, but Lindsay. So it's constant noise. It's constant questions, constant talking. Again, she's married to me. So I think for 1 hour to get in there would be almost a lifetime of just a moment just of her and just the art.
Lindsay, did you want that hour of silence?
I did. He knows me.
I can't blame you. I would have chosen the same thing. Yeah.
Well, in that way you can really, really just geek out, no judgment.
Yeah.
Just let me go obsess.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's both are valid, right?
Yeah,
sure.
But sometimes you just want that time alone, and it's harder as you get an adult to ever get that time alone.
Mm-hmm.
You just get more and more responsibilities and more time that you're supposed to be present in front of everyone else. So having that option is really a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nobody's asking you for anything. Just being there, just you and the art.
Oh, it's a gift.
Yeah.
I mean, to be able to come in and see this art.
Telling you, any Sunday I'll just bring you up here. I'll just sit out in the car.
Okay.
read the paper. Well, you know where you can park. All right. This. So you've already won the game, right? So congratulations. This is literally just for bonus points at this point. And it's the only non-this or that question. It's a fill in the blank. So you actually a little tougher. That's tough. But you know, you did good. So congratulations.
Thanks, man.
I think it won't be a completely silent car ride home.
No.
All right. So I asked Lindsay what her favorite object she saw today was. You want to take a stab at that? You want to guess what you think it might have been? This is tough.
Do I have to have the name of it?
No, I mean you can just describe it. Like, what do you think it is?
I mean, her favorite of it. Because I mean,
of today.
Of today. I mean, there was several in there that I thought she spoke about. I mean, I don't know. I would hate to it would.
You're stumped.
Yeah, I'm stumped. I'm just gonna, but like I do when I'm stumped, right? I just keep talking.
So, that's how I knew.
That's why you're great for this podcast.
I'll talk my way through this. We'll figure it out together, right?
That's how I knew.
I do. You spoke about the Remington, but as we got towards the end, there was we stopped for a bit and talked about the Navy piece for a bit. Is that it? Was that the one? Yeah, right. I mean,
the Navy sculpture.
And what was funny? Okay,
how did you do that? That was good.
Well, when you said towards the end, because I thank you, because I have to run through the whole thing. But why that stood out to me is, you know how many times I've walked by that piece?
Really?
And I've never really thought much about it. Like I was like,
really?
Okay, yeah, it's like chrome mirror on the wall. Okay, all right, keep going. But when y'all were talking today, and I was like, and I remember, Nefi, and I know you've talked a lot about him at the Van Gogh and the Pollock biographies about you, he and his partner wrote, and knowing the connection with him being in Aiken. And so I stopped and while you were talking, I'm looking at this piece and thinking, this is actually really cool. So to answer your bit earlier, Drew, when you were asking, I'm like, yeah, I didn't have really much of an appreciation of it until Lindsay kind of provided me some context that I probably should have picked up on.
And the answer to that last question would be different every single day.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Every day.
Did you have a new favorite today, Ray?
Yeah, the piece that we were first time, I was kind of joking about, we get to take one of these home.
The fire?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
I really like that. I didn't notice that one before. I mean, it's smaller and unassuming, but once you see it, you can't unsee it.
You know what I love about that is you both chose artist named Steven from South Carolina. So everyone at home should come in and see the painting by Stephen Chesley, the sculpture by Stephen Nafee, and everyone else's favorites here at the CMA.
Yeah, there's plenty of Stevens to go around.
There's Stevens everywhere. And you can see them all here at the Columbia Museum of Art.
All the Stevens.
Ray, thank you so much for taking the time on a Sunday, no less, to come in and hang out with me. And Lindsay, especially thank you for coming in and hanging out with us. Ray's sort of obligated to hang out with me. You are not. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
She's not even obligated to hang out with me.
Yeah.
Dr. Lindsay McManus is many things. She is the chair of the English department at Cardinal Newman School, a former graduate of the PhD program at USC, also a bachelor's degree in art history, master's degree in American literature, And I'm leaving the best part of this out, my wife. After the break,
I feel like a through line is these pieces are doing something that I love that art does, which is resist.
Erin Kuykendall, up next.
Hey y'all, producer Drew here with an exciting announcement. Recently, the Columbia Museum of Art has been awarded with the 2026 Governor's Award for the Arts in the Accessibility category. It's really an honor to be recognized by our state for this work, which we find to be absolutely critical to living up to our mission of being welcoming to all. These are exciting times at the CMA, and if you'd like to support what we do here in making art accessible to everyone, maybe it's time to consider becoming a member of the Columbia Museum of Art. Not only will you be helping the museum sustain programs, exhibitions, accessibility initiatives, and even this podcast, but you'll also gain access to a variety of perks, like free admission to the CMA and over 150 other museums in the Southeast, priority registration and discounts for events and classes, complimentary admission for children ages 18 and younger, and so much more. You can learn more about CMA membership on our website, columbiamuseum.org. That's columbiamuseum.org. And now, back to the show.
So, my name is Erin Kuykendall, and I'm the Kress Interpretive Fellow here at the CMA.
Well, thank you, Erin. I'm so glad to have you here
Thank you.
In the studio with us. I'm just going to jump right in and ask you, what is a Kress Interpretive Fellow?
Yeah. So it's a year-long position funded with grant money by the Kress Foundation, which is named after Samuel H. Kress, who was a business person and an art collector.
Mm-hmm.
And so their foundation, we have a lot of pieces from their foundation. And so we got the grant money this year to have me come in and learn alongside that collection. And it's also for early career scholars to learn more about museum work.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what drew you into wanting to do an opportunity like this?
Yeah, I have my bachelor's and master's in art history. And I have had like various other experiences working in museums and galleries. But recently I had kind of gone into education. And then I just kind of decided, I really miss being in museum spaces. Interpretation is kind of split between curatorial and education. So it felt like a really great way to marry that I love working in education and that I missed being in the museum space.
Cool. Are there any specific projects or anything like that you're working on?
Yeah, I gave my first public tour recently, which was very nerve-wracking for me. But I think I did okay. One of the visitors said I was cute as a button, so I'll take it.
That's a compliment down here. I'm just saying.
Not necessarily a compliment on my content, but I'll take it. So. So I've been working on that. I have a couple other tours coming up of the collection. One of the Kress collection through the senses, which I'm really excited about.
Oh, yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah. And then in May, there'll be a focal point tour, which is kind of like these thematic specialized tours. And I'm doing one about sentimentality and nostalgia and things like that in our collection. So
cool.
I really like putting together tours.
Yeah, no, I think that any chance you get to interact with the public and but I know totally what you mean by that sort of that nerve-wracking feeling of, you feel like you're totally on point.
Yeah.
And if you say the wrong thing, they're going to call you out for it and drag you through the galleries.
Exactly.
But they're so nice here. I mean,
I know. Luckily, everyone was very supportive. Of course, there were questions I didn't know the answers to, but I think it's always best to be honest. I have no idea. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that, you know what that does? That makes you cute as a button.
Yeah, exactly.
So as you researched the collection, was there any interesting surprises or anything like that?
Yeah, there's been a lot because I just was really excited to get in here and get behind the scenes of a museum again.
Sure, yeah.
And especially one of this size, I've been able to put my hands in all kinds of pots around here and see really how a lot of things work. And that's been really exciting. One of my favorite things, honestly, has been being able to see the vaults, like the art storage, because I think I grew up like, what's behind all these locked doors in the museum and what happened? You see Night at the Museum once and you're like, what goes on here at night? So I think that's been one of my favorite surprises is like getting to see all the paintings hung together and the sculptures kind of over here. sheathed in mystery. And like, I think that's been like a really thrilling aspect of this I didn't expect.
You know, there's so much of what you see, and then there's so much more of what you don't see. And yeah, that to me is part of what we've been trying to do here is just sort of expose people to parts of the museum they're just not going to get to see every day. So I want us to come back to interpretation because that is a big part of your task. And so I believe we've got a few objects, right, that are featured in our new collection, and would love for you to maybe talk a little bit about that with the audience. And then we'll see, you know, maybe if our audience, when they come in and check us out, we'll see if they're able to pick any of this stuff up. I will say that I've kind of gone through and have seen them. So I have some questions myself when we get to them. For instance, this first one, which is kind of one of my questions. Why this one? But talk to us.
So this first one is a portrait of a little boy in red holding a goldfinch. It is part of the Kress collection, and I wanted to make sure I included something from the Kress collection because that's, you know, part of why I'm here. So, but I just am enamored with this little weird guy. Like, I think he is so interesting and so different from other portraits and other things in the Kress collection, too. I think, too, my like of him comes from my background as a preschool teacher. Like, I think when I look at him, I see this, like, kind of defiant little gaze. And it's like, oh, I've seen that before, you know? Like, I'm very familiar with that look. And it's just, like, this bizarre juxtaposition of, like, you know, this is a child. You see his, like, pudgy little hands holding this sweet bird. But he's in this, like, regalia, you know? And you just wonder what he's thinking. And I just think it's a really interesting piece.
For our listeners at home that can't see this, it's a wonderful portrait of a boy, and he's wearing this like red smock uniform thing with this prickly looking collar. Looks very regal and absolutely has an expression on his face of disgust. He looks like he clearly does not want to be there. You know, I mean, and that's, and it, you know, and there's sometimes you see that in portraits, you know, where you probably had to have thought, this is a ridiculous pose. Or this is a ridiculous facial expression this person's making me. But this kid does not want to wear this outfit.
I mean, would you?
No. I mean, the collar alone is so itchy. And I mean, like, and he is definitely not interested in this bird. I mean,
this poor bird.
This poor bird. You know, which, you know, I expected to see like the eyes even bigger than they are. You know?
Bulging.
But what is it? What is it about the goldfinch? Why goldfinch?
So there's a couple ideas about the goldfinch. Birds held a lot of symbolism in Renaissance art. The goldfinch in particular is often painted with young Jesus because it's said that the goldfinch was present at Christ's crucifixion and tried to pluck the thorns from his crown, resulting in the red on the head of the European goldfinch.
Gotcha.
So it could be that the bird is sort of alluding to the sitter's likeness to Jesus or religious favor. It was also not uncommon to have goldfinch as pets in the Renaissance, so it could be like a demonstration of wealth and status.
Because the collar would not have done that.
Right.
You know, okay, well, that makes sense because I when I first saw it, I was like, this poor bird. What's this kid going to do with this bird?
Yeah,
you know?
It is strange because it's not that it's like alighted on his shoulder in some sort of symbolic way. He's very much clutching it.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking Ozzy Osbourne references now at this point. So yeah, that's cool. But that's really enlightening. I think when we see portraits, you know, it always begs a lot of questions. Like, you know, who is the person, obviously, and what are the significance to sort of the props or poses? And that's what I always find interesting because, to be quite honest with you, there's a time when, for me personally, portraits don't really do much for me, other than freak me out because they follow me everywhere I go in the room. But there's a part of me that feels like, you know, when I learn more of that context, it allows me to appreciate a little bit more and see more than just, you know, a rich chubby kid. You know, I mean, there's something else involved here. And of course that adds, I think, even more to what is already a pretty impressive collection.
Absolutely.
You know, so All right, well, cool. Let's talk about another piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm curious. I'd love to hear more about diction. Because first of all, I'm just going to go ahead and state that my ADHD goes nuts looking at this picture. Because I'm like, I want to follow it like it's a maze, and like, nope, that ended. Nope, that can't go there.
Yeah.
Tell us more about this piece. This is a really funky piece.
Yeah. So I think my connection to it, my background for my MA is that I wrote on 16th century Islamic manuscript paintings. So my experience has been with Persian writing. And when I look at this piece, the first thing I thought was, oh my God, it's Persian, like that's the writing that she's using here. And then it's called diction, right? A reference to like potentially language, written language. So that was my draw to this piece. It felt very familiar. And aesthetically, of course, I think it's interesting too. It can be kind of frustrating in that you're looking for these like resolving patterns, but it's just not there.
Yeah.
She hasn't given us that.
Yeah. And then of course the she we're talking about here is Valerie Jordan.
Yes.
Right? Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Yeah. So I hadn't known of her work until coming here and seeing diction in the galleries. But she has been active for over 40 years and creating in this style largely. She was also one of the founding members of the pattern and decoration movement that emerged in the 70s. So the pattern and decoration movement arose in the 1970s as a response to the minimalist aesthetics of the time, which really it was a value system that said good art, good abstraction, good minimalism is by white Western men. And everything else is sort of on a tier below that, no matter who you are and what you're making. So this movement had women and men, but was led largely by women. And they took a look at things like from a global perspective. They looked at Islamic tile work and Indian carpets, and they looked at things that were previously considered women's work, like lace work, quilts, wallpapers, things like that. And they drew from those, largely staying still within the language of minimalism and abstraction, but kind of bringing to the forefront these neglected categories. They really wanted to recalibrate the value scales in the art world.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Now, is this particular piece representative of like the larger body of her work?
Yeah, I would say visually it's working in the same themes. Like I think she kind of toys with this language a lot of these lines, these swirling lines and patterns, and she calls it her grammar of abstraction.
Oh, I like that. Grammar of abstraction.
Sort of like her own little language.
Yeah, my poet button just tingled a little bit, It's like, well. And I love the fact that you have in these lines, you have these sharp angles, and then you have these nice soft curves, and often following within the same space. And if we wanted to really wax the metaphor a little bit more with language, I mean, and that's kind of what we do with language, right? I mean, there's these softer places, musicality, right? And then these sharp little jabs along the way, these barbs. It's such a cool piece, and it stands out. I mean, because first of all, when you go into that one space, I mean, obviously there's a focal point that's going to pull you all the way to the back wall. Right. But when you get there and then you just look over to your left, it's like, boom, and it's I love the placement too.
I think especially compared to the other pieces in that gallery, it's not like it's super vibrant.
That's right. Yeah.
And then down from that is that like swirling maze of words in that green art piece. So it's very different, but somehow it works in that space, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think from a palette, it's not using all that vibrancy and it pulls you in just the same. Really cool. Cool. All right, now we're going to go to this other piece. Now, I was joking around when I was kind of going over the production notes with Drew. Like, finally, we're going to get to something that I kind of know a little something about.
Yeah, okay, you might know more than me.
Well, now that's impossible. But of course, this is the now. Growing up in the South, we call these jugs, right? You know, the Dave jug, but it's a large pot from the Toussaint collection. And if you live in South Carolina for any long period of time, if you grew up in South Carolina, you knew about Dave the Potter. But I'd love to hear some of your take on this one particular piece because it's a stunning specimen. I mean, it's big, it's whole, and its placement too in the gallery. I think is very interesting. So enlighten us a little bit on this Dave piece, will you?
Well, I'm from Texas, so I didn't know about Dave Jugs until I got here, and was really happy to see actually how much South Carolinian history is represented in our galleries and throughout the museum. But looking into this piece, of course, when you first see it, your question is, well, one, this is huge, and two, like, what is this writing on the front of it? And I had those same questions. So then I began to look into David Drake or Dave the Potter, and it was really fascinating to uncover his legacy and learn more about his work. So, and it's in a gallery that really utilizes a lot of earthworks. You know, there's the Mario Joyce that has like dirt and sand incorporated into it. There's a Catawba pottery. So seems to be really about reclaiming land in that gallery.
Absolutely. And I mean, and these are, utilitarian pieces, right? I mean, this was used at some point for lard or salt or whatever, for curing. And yet now the fact that these have even survived, right? I mean, which makes them so sought after. And the fact that, he is writing these things and technically at a time when he's not supposed to really know how to write, and so I've always been fascinated by that, and the glazing, and because this is Edgefield, and I think if you've seen Edgefield pottery, that sort of that dark kaolin that works in there, and a little different than maybe the salt jugs you see in North Carolina, or but yeah, I was surprised and yet not surprised to see this in this museum, because I think you're right. I mean, I do think the CMA does such a great job of really celebrating South Carolina artists. And in that, especially if you think about it from historical standpoint, that is going to bring into it a history that sometimes is a little complicated, to say the least. It's fascinating. There are so many of his jugs that have survived that have verse pieces written on them. So he is also called, a poet.
The story behind it is so fascinating. And like you mentioned, like it's just an incredible story. And to have this piece in the museum is really huge. Because like to your point, it was illegal for enslaved people to read or write at the time. And I learned that not only was it illegal, it's not like you're getting a ticket. They were going to amputate fingers and toes.
Oh, yeah.
And so for him to not only know how to read and write, but to sign his work, sometimes put poetry on his work, was a really incredible act of resistance.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited that we have this piece.
Yeah. I mean, and I love the fact that it's dated, I mean, so that it, there was a time when he was probably, he probably threw a lot of pots, probably
Absolutely.
A lot of them had exploded in the kiln. I've seen sort of drawings of how those kilns looked and, very earthen, obviously. And it's a miracle anything survived from those things because you could control all that kind of heat. So, not only do you have the story from an artistic standpoint, this particular pot carries its own story with it that is really unbelievable for a jug.
Yeah.
I mean, just a clay jug.
Yeah.
So that's impressive. Follow me if you want to know anything more about Dave.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of shards from a shard pile and that we had found. And that's how I learned a lot more about like how they would mark the jugs so that you could tell how big they were, like how many gallons they were supposed to hold. They would use dots or slashes. Some of the early stuff he would have a stamp so he could stamp it with LM. Yeah, it's something that it's a unique thing for us to take a lot of pride in. The fact that it's not just something known now in the state of South Carolina. It's known throughout the country. Yeah. And this guy who was out in the middle of nowhere throwing pots now is so popular, and sought after.
Yeah, and his inscriptions really let us trace his movements throughout time. And that also gives us like an invaluable look into the lives of enslaved people during that era, which, as you know, is like painfully anonymous for a lot of people. So he became not only this like symbol of resistance and like actually amazing artist of his own right, but also like this historical figure, like you mentioned, that gave us a lot of insight to that time period.
Mm-hmm. You're right. The fact that we don't know much from the enslaved perspective, other than, I mean, you know, the WPA project is something that comes to mind, right? The narratives that they were able to pull. But beyond that, not a lot survived. I mean, because so much of it had to be used. Quilts were put together by Sugar Sex and things like that, and they just didn't survive. I mean, they didn't survive that. So the fact that we're able to have this and to have, I think, a memory here, an artifact that is beyond the tragedies of our history, and is something that we can celebrate, and that we can see this on view here at the Columbia Museum of Art is pretty damn special.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, I had a chance to kind of walk around upstairs, and I got to say, I'm just impressed. You know, I feel like I'm in a brand new space, and being able to see the way certain galleries are laid out, the way, you know, we've talked a lot about this in some of our previous episodes leading up to the opening of the upstairs gallery. And I would hear, you know, Michael and others talk about it. I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds all fascinating. That sounds great. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
And then they see it and you're like, holy crap, man, that's really cool. You know, really stands out. Is there anything in particular that just jumps out at you you know?
Yeah, I wasn't present to see it before it was reinstalled, so I'm not exactly sure.
That's even better, though.
Yeah,
that's even better.
So a couple things. I know that the gallery hanging is new, and I really like that. I think it's visually striking. I think it's really interesting. I think it's different from what most people have probably seen. So I'm pro gallery hanging. And then I think they were really intentional about disruptions in some of the like Kress galleries, and I think those are really smart additions that I love seeing placed within like their inspirations context. So I think that was smart.
That's a wonderful way to put it. It's the disruptions that make them, they stand out. Yeah. And it's wild because you've got those moments, but you clearly got through lines, right? I mean, that just pull you through. And I think they're through lines through these three pieces that we talked about today, but would be curious and love to hear what you think.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking about this question, and my first response was that I sort of picked these pieces that were representative of my journey to get here, you know, but the more that I thought about it, the more I feel like a through line is these pieces are doing something that I love that art does, which is resist. Yeah. So there's the little boy with his attitude. Yeah. There's the Jadon with the pattern and decoration movement, which, you know, was kind of rose up against the hegemonic aesthetics of the day to say, like, what you consider women's work or insignificant work is just as valuable as this, like, brand of minimalism. And then there's the Dave Jug, which, as we already talked about, which is a total act of resistance and bravery. And so I think all these things are trying to accomplish something that was different than what they had seen before.
Yeah, I love it. Through line of resistance. What was the other one you used? Grammar of abstraction. Yeah. Erin, we just got to keep you on the show more often. Yeah, perfect.
I'm ready.
I mean, this was a lot of fun. You know, so.
Anytime.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a blast. So yeah, I mean, please, you know, come out and check out the galleries. And if you get to be, if someone were inclined and wanted to be a part of a tour or anything like that you might be leading, how would one do that?
Yeah, a lot of stuff is posted on the CMA's website, like the May Focal Point Tour, the Kress Tour through the Senses. I'm also available by email at cmafellow@columbiamuseum.org. So feel free to reach out to anybody. I know Glenna is the curator of education, and she also leads a lot of tours, so we're all happy to help.
Yeah. And how long are you going to get to be with us?
Till next October. It's a year long.
Till next October. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, Erin, thank you so much for coming on our show. And And thank you for being here at the Columbia Museum of Art.
Yeah.
And y'all, if you get a chance, grab a tour with Erin. I hear she's cute as a button. Erin Kuykendall is the Kress Interpretive Fellow at the Columbia Museum of Art. You can see all of the artworks Erin discussed today in the newly installed CMA Collection Galleries. Plan your visit today by visiting our website at columbiamuseum.org.
Hey y'all, surprise producer Drew here at the end of the episode. I wish I could say I planned on being here, but the truth is I forgot to ask Ray to record an ending monologue. Luckily for us, this gives me an opportunity to switch things up. When I was recording in the galleries with Ray and Lindsay, we were looking at art for over an hour, but only about 3 minutes made it into the episode. And so for those of you kind enough to stick around to the end credits, I bring you this gift. For your listening pleasure, please enjoy this supercut of my favorite quotes.
Seriously. Don't whistle when you're in the galleries. That's the happiest one for me, the Madonna and Child with the
Really?
four cherub heads.
This one?
It's just happy to me.
Really?
Yeah.
In a triptych with the Virgin and Child, there's a dragon. He looks pretty nonchalant to me.
Yeah, I'm just going to kill a dragon today.
That's what I do. Why would a Chinese plate have E pluribus unum on it?
I'm assuming it's probably a decorative piece commissioned by...
Don't
know. Come see this big ball of spore.
It looks like a collection of cloves that you put on a ham. I don't know about that.
I like how we did this. I think this is cool. I said we like I did anything. I didn't do anything.
Oh, look at
Yeah.
flask.
Could you imagine carrying that in your back pocket?
Right, it's real inconspicuous.
Yeah, you'd have to wear that around your neck.
This is my flask.
It takes up your whole breastplate.
Don't look at me.
I love the camel. She's just like, ah. You know, these kinds of portraits always crack me up because their facial expressions, they all look the same.
They do. Like they have just interchangeable wigs.
Yeah, like I guess the guy's being like, I've
She
never
could be
painted.
this guy. He could be this guy. The infant could be an adult too.
Yeah, it's like somebody said at one point, you know,
This dog also has the face, interchangeable face.
Yeah, same faces. How do you paint faces? I don't know, just paint the same face. You've been listening to Binder, a production of the Columbia Museum of Art. Hosted by me, Ray McManus. Production and editing by Drew Barron. Special assistance from Joelle Ryan Cook. You can find a full transcript of today's episode in our show notes. If you like what you heard today, be sure to share this episode with others or write us a review on Apple Podcasts. For more information about Binder or CMA exhibitions and programs, visit our website, columbiamuseum.org. So what we'll do, Erin, is that this whole thing, I just act like there's an audience in here.
Cool. Yeah, there is.
So
yeah.
I mean, Drew is a wonderful audience member. A little cranky sometimes, but he's good. He's
Right.
good.